I have taken a look at some of the biggest and best monitors on this channel, but the 45-inch LG UltraGear OLED is a monitor that's evaded me for a while, and I'm not sure why. Coming in at 45 inches with its 240Hz OLED panel and a crazy 800R curve, this screen has everything I could want from a monitor for both monster gaming sessions and all-day productivity work. And as someone who has used a 49-inch ultrawide for the last few years, but who also wants to find something new to upgrade to, this comes pretty damn close. A portion of this video is sponsored by Pulseway, more on them in just a moment. But first up, let's just get these specs out of the way, because this has some of the best specs I've seen on a screen for a very long time. Now, the LG 45-inch UltraGear is capable of driving a resolution of 3440 by 1440 at 240Hz and with 84 pixels per inch. There's a 0.03 millisecond response time, which is literally splitting hairs now, with variable refresh rate, as well as support for all the usuals like HDR10, FreeSync, G-Sync. There's also picture-in-picture, picture-by-picture, with 2 built-in HDMI 2.1 ports and 1 DisplayPort 1.4 ports. There's also a very, very thin design with a relatively thin border around the edge, anti-glare and low reflection coatings to minimize screen reflections, a fully adjustable stand, a remote control, and LED backlighting that I really hope is better than the other screens I've tested so far. So, how does all of this stack up in the real world? Now, for me, it is the attention to detail that really impresses me with this screen, but there are a few drawbacks. Now, for the good stuff first, the 800R curve, which I thought might be a bit too much, it actually really makes for a way more comfortable, and I guess using those immersive words, makes for a more immersive experience than even my 49-inch 1000R curve screen. Also, the fact you can do picture-in-picture and picture-by-picture from 2 separate input sources, which is an issue that seems to plague like all of the latest Samsung screens I've tested, which can only do 1 input source and then some other like smart feature or smart app, which is just horrible. Right down to the build quality of the screen itself, which is really solid and actually goes a long way towards reassuring you that you spent your money wisely. And also, content on the screen looks incredible. Like, colors pop in games like Fortnite while still holding their blacks. For creative productivity, it's 98.5% DCI-P3 color accuracy, gives you consistently accurate colors across like every application. And for regular productivity, like the desktop real estate you get from just having a screen this big just means you aren't constantly switching screens, as you can comfortably have everything you actually want on one screen at one time. And it's also the first, and I mean the first screen ever that I've connected my Mac to via DisplayPorts, and it's giving me the full 240Hz refresh rate, and it even supports variable refresh rate on the Mac as well. Now, I found again on the Samsung screens I reviewed, I've had to mess around with cables and adapters and going into the screen settings, and even after all of that, I've only been able to get 120Hz out of their 240Hz screens. So yeah, I just love that this thing is just plug and play and it just works. Now, I also really like that screens are coming with their own remote controls nowadays, kind of blurring the lines between what makes a TV and what makes a monitor a monitor. Now, Samsung do this by throwing their new smart TV interface onto like everything they can make, which I find is a bit of a love it or kind of hate it situation. But LG have their familiar but still very good and still very useful gaming interface to swap inputs and picture modes and picture-in-picture and picture-by-picture and, you know, all of the good stuff. And all of this is frustratingly fiddly to control if you try and use the built-in button, and it's literally a single button. You can't even use it like a little joystick. So using the remote control for this is an absolute must-have. Now, the picture-by-picture mode, I always get asked this in the comments, it's really good here too. You can independently set the picture aspect ratio for both sides, because by default, a console like an Xbox or PlayStation will just stretch to fill the space and make your games just look, well, pretty horrendous. And something I've been asked a few times before, when you use picture-in-picture, the main source runs at the full 240Hz, but the smaller source then runs at 60Hz. But if you are in picture-by-picture mode, like this side by side, then it does seem that one source can run at 120Hz, whilst the other, at least for me, only runs at 60Hz. Now, I've tried like swapping sources, swapping sides, making one primary or not, but it always seems to be that my PC or Mac always gets the 120, and the Xbox or the PlayStation 5, that always gets 60. Now, speaking of consoles, if you are planning to buy this mainly to play console games, then you will be left with these like black bars down the sides whilst it kind of keeps that 16:9 aspect ratio. And just remember, of course, that consoles can only still go up to 120Hz, so you won't get the full benefits, of course, of the 240Hz out of any consoles just yet. But, of course, saying that, if you're a PC gamer, you will be fine to a certain extent. Now the screen also comes with full tilt and height adjustments and pivots with the included stand. A stand which is actually far less intrusive on the desk than others I've seen, certainly with these kind of size screens. But I would still also recommend getting that desk space back by using a proper monitor arm. And I'll link to my go-to for these size screens because they're just designed to take the weight of something as big and as heavy as these screens. Now I just find that by using an arm, you can free up a ton of desk space underneath this that's otherwise, taken up by this awkwardly kind of positioned stands, like maybe putting one of those handy desk shelves underneath to store your knickknacks and other items from your desk. And lastly, for the good stuff, the LED lights on the back. Now this screen is definitely a noticeable step in the right direction. I still think there's a lot of room for improvement here, but if you are in a dark room with no other lights on, you could just about see the glow of the back LEDs on the wall behind you. Now, I would still say that most people will just buy a LED strip to stick on the back of their screen still as an alternative because they just still go much brighter than these built-in strips can, but at least they're brighter than the other screens that I've tested so far. And as for the size, coming from a 49-inch ultra-wide already, I actually think I prefer this size. I prefer having a slightly taller but slightly less wider screen. It just feels more comfortable to use and nowhere near the monstrosity of the 55-inch screen that I've reviewed recently. But with that said, it does introduce a few problems. Now, the first being how to organically segue into this video sponsor. Introducing Pulseway, the ultimate IT monitoring and management platform that you will ever need. Say goodbye to the chaos of IT management and hello to the streamlined efficiency. Pulseway's mobile app and desktop app lets you centrally manage all of your network devices from anywhere, saving you time and hassle. Instantly respond to issues and auto-remediate issues before they become the problem with powerful yet easy to use auto-remediation technology. Kill processes, reset passwords, remote into any system, grab forgotten files from your desktop, and so much more. And with Siri integration, Pulseway is the only IT management platform controlled by the power of your voice. Now this really can't get any better. Try Pulseway for free today through the link below and experience the ease of seamless, efficient IT monitoring and management. Test it with no commitments for 14 days and step up your IT game instantly. Now the first issue with this screen though is at just 84 pixels per inch, it's lower quality than my 49-inch ultra-wide, which is 109 pixels per inch. So as you look closer and look at the kind of the fonts and files and folders, you can see those pixels appear to the naked eye. Now also given the size of this screen and the fact it's actually taller than my 49-inch screen, I was hoping to gain some vertical resolution, to get some extra space up there in return for losing some of the horizontal resolution. Now this screen runs at 3440 on the horizontal axis, but it keeps the same 1440 vertical that my 49-inch screen does, which means that no, you don't get any extra space. But with that said, I would say that if you're buying this primarily for gaming, then that's not going to be an issue for you whatsoever. Now, another issue is that you'll be pretty pushed to get, well, anywhere near 240 hertz, even after spending thousands on the latest graphics cards. Now, I'm still waiting to build my new PC gaming setup, but I've seen reports from many others that they can't consistently get, well, really anywhere above 200 FPS, even with a brand new build. Now, for me, that's honestly not really a cause for consideration though. Honestly, for me, when I'm buying a monitor, I just want to buy the best that I can at the time. So I know that I'm buying a screen that can hit 240 hertz, I feel is still worth it as you're likely to replace, your PC or maybe your console before you replace the screen. But anyway, those issues aside, what's it like to actually use this screen day to day and how does it compare to others that I've tested? Well, for overall brightness, this screen hits around 500 nits in SDR content, which is better than the Samsung G9 Neo, and about the same 650 nits on HDR content, which has been pretty great to game on so far. Also, given that I sit next to a really large window, I did worry that having that 800R curve would, cause issues with the screen reflecting on one side of the screen. And you can see here that the anti-reflective tech on this screen actually does a really impressive job of minimizing reflections. It's pretty crazy that with bright lights on directly behind me and the window, you can barely see anything reflected. So yeah, if you're thinking of buying this, but you had your reservations about reflections, just like I did, you don't need to worry about that one bit. Now, a minor issue also, well, not really a minor issue, but this screen doesn't have any built-in speakers, so just be sure to get yourself, a decent pair of headphones. But it does have a DTS headphone X output, which you can replicate like a full 11.1 channel surround setup. And with those admittedly minor gripes aside, I just wish the monitor world would catch up with their TV counterparts with their 5-year standard warranties. Given that the technologies in these screens are practically identical nowadays. Now, overall, Would I recommend this screen? I actually really like it. Like, aside from the slightly disappointing screen resolution, which I think does need to be improved, I prefer the 45-inch screen. The 800R curve also makes screens of this size way more usable with no straining your neck to see like into the very corners of this screen. And it's just so much nicer for gameplay. Now, yes, there are of course cheaper options, but it totally depends what you're looking for in a screen. And if you're looking for a 45-inch, 240Hz OLED, mainly for gaming, with a bit of productivity thrown in, then this is a great option if you can pick it up for a great price.